Hello and welcome to Saturday's edition of Cracking the Cryptic, and an intriguing puzzle today by the constructor Shye. Now Mark has done a few of Shye's puzzles on the channel before, and he gave me an interesting bit of feedback about Shye. He said that she used to be just a top puzzle maker, but in his opinion she has recently kicked on to be one of world class, was how he described Shye's puzzles. And in fact this puzzle has a 98% rating over on Logic Masters Germany, and a very interesting and unusual rule set. So I am really intrigued to try this one, and I'll run through the rules in just a second. Now, I mentioned this yesterday, but perhaps I was a little premature. Today I am also wearing my merch, Cracking the Cryptic merch. You can check this out over on Teespring. We're really proud of how it looks. In fact, it remains my ambition in life to be out in general public and see somebody wearing Cracking the Cryptic merchandise. I'm not sure what this says about the state of my ambitions now, but there we are. Now, continuing on with the feedback about Scott Strosahl's puzzle hunt, we've now had another 5 correct entries, so well done to all those of you who have managed to solve it. And the feedback has been great, so do check it out. If you're a patron of the channel, you can find the hunt over on Patreon right now. What else do I want to mention? Nothing, I don't think. I don't think we need to say anything else other than run through the rules of this one. In fact, what I've also got here, Shye was kind enough to provide this, which is, let me just move that down a little bit. This is an example puzzle, so as I read through the rules, this might make more sense to you. What we've got is lits and Sudoku being mixed up here. So I know a number of you will be familiar with lits rules. We've done a couple of puzzles on the channel before about them, but let me read you the rules. What we've got to do is shade exactly 4 connected cells in each region to form an L, I, T or S tetromino. So if you look at the completed grid here, you can see in this shape there's a T tetromino. This one here, this is an S tetromino. That's another T there. That's an I going across. This is an L. So we've got to create one of those tetrominoes. In fact, the only tetromino you're not allowed to create is the 2x2 one, because all the shaded cells in the grid have to be connected to each other without forming a 2x2 block of shaded cells. And the other condition, which you can see in the solution here, is that 2 tetrominoes of the same type must not share an edge. So if you study this carefully, you'll see not only are all the grey cells connected, but no 2 similar tetrominoes touch one another along an edge. So that is absolutely standard lits rules, but rather incredibly, Shye has sort of overlaid an irregular Sudoku on top of this. So in the irregular Sudoku, normal Sudoku rules apply, except we've got to put the digits 1 to 9 in the regions, and so there's no 3x3 blocks. As you can see today, we've got irregular regions. In the example it just goes from 1 to 6, but in the real puzzle, let's go back to the real puzzle, you can see these regions are of size 9. So we've got to put the digits 1 to 9 in the regions, the rows and the columns as usual. But the shaded cells form killer Sudoku cages, the sum of which is clued in the top left of the region. So the cell with the sum total is not necessarily part of a tetromino, and as usual, you cannot repeat a digit in a cage. So let us have a look at this. Look at this 11 clue here. You can see the S tetromino has cells on it that sum up to 11 without repeating a digit. So this is an amazing idea. Basically, it's a sort of combination of normal Sudoku or a regular Sudoku, killer Sudoku and lits all combined in the same puzzle. And again here, look, this 11 is referring to those cells which sum to 11. This 18, 5 plus 6 plus 3 plus 4 equals 18. So yeah, this looks absolutely fascinating. Absolutely fascinating. The way to play, as usual, click the link under the video. With that, I get to play. I'm looking forward to this. Let's get cracking. Okay, let's get cracking. So I can see I need to put an I pentomino or tetromino in the bottom row. I'm presuming I have to start with the lits part of this. I've not got many given digits from a Sudoku perspective. I'll just have a quick check about whether... I mean, one thing I can see straight away from a Sudoku perspective is those two squares have to contain the same digit. But you can see that they're not very restricted. But why do I know that these two have to contain the same digit? Well, this is the sort of absolute key pivotal tip to know about irregular Sudoku. Let's look at the first 3 rows of the grid and ask what digits are going to be in the first 3 rows. Well, I'm not going to be telling you any secrets by revealing that they will contain the digits from 1 to 9 3 times each. It's 3 complete rows of the Sudoku. But I know that region contains one of those sets of 1 to 9. I know this region contains a second of the sets 1 to 9. So I know those digits there must be the third set of the digits 1 to 9. But I also know that this region over here is almost the set of digits 1 to 9. It's just missing this one. So whatever this one is has to make a reappearance there in order to ensure the first 3 rows of the grid contain exactly 3 lots of the digits 1 to 9. So these two squares are... Actually, I'm not going to shade them in. I'm just going to try and remember. But that's the first thing I would note from a Sudoku perspective. Let's look at the lits then. So the thing I'm thinking here is that wherever I put this tetromino, I keep getting that wrong, it's got to connect to the rest of the grid. And you can see there's only 2 regions that are going to allow it to connect to the rest of the grid. And both of these regions are L-shaped regions. Now, an L-shaped region in a lits puzzle can only contain 2 types of tetromino. It can only contain an I tetromino or an L tetromino. Now, given we know this is an I tetromino, it must connect through an L tetromino. So it either connects through a region that has those 3 cells in it, or it connects through a region that has those 3 cells in it. Okay, let's have a look at that. Is there any difference between these 2 possibilities? This... Yes, there's an enormous difference. The key difference is this shape here. This shape is rather beautiful from a lits perspective, but it's not easy to see why. In fact, this region here operates a bit like an L region, in the sense that what are the possible tetrominoes you can put in this region? And I think it's only an L and an I. It is only an L and an I. Okay, so if we're trying to make this I tetromino escape through this combination, and we know that this can only be an L or an I, well, we know this is an L, this is part of an L, it's either that L or that L. So we'd have to put an I in here, and you can see that however you draw an I in here, it takes that cell. And that cell will complete a 2x2 block. So what I think I'm saying is that the 28 does not connect to the rest of the grid via this L. It connects via this L, which means that must be, or that's all grey. That square's not in, therefore. That square's not in. And if that was in, that would go maximum to there, so these are not in. Now, so 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So those 2 squares are definitely in now, however I draw this I. And oh, hang on a minute. Hang on a minute, maybe I'm looking at the wrong region here. This region here, however I draw this, we know that if I put the tetromino in the 22 region anywhere towards the bottom of the grid, I can't get it out via this 12 region, can I? Oh, this is doing my head in now. I'm not sure I can. That square must be green because of this one. Those three must be green. Let's try and maybe... So if this is in... 4 there... I'm getting... So what I'm wondering is whether this 22's tetromino has to escape either... I don't think it can escape via this region without either creating a 2x2 or creating dual penta or tetrominoes touching each other. So if this square... Can it connect down via the bottom? Is that possible? No, sorry, I'm being slow here. This square can't be in, because if this square is in, it's touching an I tetromino, which is impossible. If this square is in, this is part of an I tetromino, it cannot connect to the bottom of the grid. How does this get out? It can't get out, because however you draw the shape here... Ah, this is fascinating. This is fascinating. Look at this. If this is an I, it can't get out via this shape. Because that would be a 2x2. Although it's not the same shape, it's a 2x2. If you start here, that's a 2x2. If you start here, it's an I tetromino. This doesn't work. This doesn't work. So this has to... This has to be at least here, which means this square is in, because we know it's whether the 4 cells start from this side or this side, this cell is always in. And it just feels like however I draw the shape here, this shape sort of stymies it. I mean, if we start here, this tetromino, how does this get out? It still can't. That's the same tetromino, which isn't allowed. That's got a 2x2 here. That's got a 2. This doesn't work either. I have a feeling that this shape here in the 22 has to get out there. I can't prove it yet, but I'm on my way. I am on my way to proving it. Now, this cell is impossible because that would create a 2x2. The only other way of touching this shape is with an L. That doesn't work either. This is absolutely... What a bizarre shape we've found here, or Shye's invented here. Now this is an I. So this can't be in. That's an L, which creates a 2x2. Anything else that touches this is either creating 2x2s or another L. This doesn't work. So now it has to be that. It has to be that. Now this square can't be in a tetromino because that's going to create lots of 2x2s. Same for that, same for that. All of those three come out. Same for this would create a 2x2. If this is in, it has to be a 4. It has to be an I, which connects to an I. So that's not in, and that's where you end up. That's got to be not in. Good grief. And this has got to come out through the top. And, that's interesting. Look at the 8. Can this 8 be part of this tetromino? The answer is no, because you can't make a 4-cell kilocut Sudoku cage that has an 8 in it. So that it must go there. That must be green, which means the cell above it must be green. This square can't be a tetromino because that will create an eye, which is next to another eye. So both of those turn green. So this tetromino here is now either an S or a T or an L. Everything else is possible other than I. Now look, we can do Sudoku or killer Sudoku. This is a 12 cage. It has a 5 in the region, so it can't be 1, 2, 4, 5. It must be 1, 2, 3, 6. Those squares, therefore, have got to be 4, 7, 8, 9. That's not 8. Now look, there's something. Well, these squares add to 22. So 22, 23. So these, we know that the whole box will add to 45. That's what the digits 1 to 9 add up to. So I now know those 4 squares add to 22. So these 3 squares have to be quite large because 22, 23, 26, these 3 squares have to add up to 19. And 2 of them are in a tetromino. And 2 of them are in a tetromino that only adds up to 13. Bingo. Bingo. Because, okay, what's the maximum I could put into those 2 squares then and not break my 13 cage? Well, it would be 10. I can't put any more than 10 in, or I'd have to make the other 2 cells both equal 1. Now, if those can be a maximum of 10, and these 3 add up to 19, this has to be a 9. And these have to add up to 10, which means the other 2 cells have to be 1 and 2, which tells you the shape of the tetromino. Oh my god. So these add up to 10, these are 1 and 2. And this 10 can't be 1, 9, 2, 8 or 3, 7. So it's 4, 6. Which means those squares are determined. These squares are 2, 5, 7 and 8. These squares have got to therefore be the same as those squares by geometry. So that's 3, 4, 6 and 9. So this column is very restrictive now. We need 2, 5 and 7 into those 3 squares. That's not 2. So if that was 7, this 13 cage would be 7, 1, 2, 3. If it's 5, it would be 7, 1, 3, 4. So it's always got a 1 and a 3 in it. Okay. Look. Look, we know these 3 squares now. Because look, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 9 here. So these are 5, 7 and 8. And we know that this square and this square are the same digit from what we looked at earlier. Look, this one can't be 5 or 8 from the weird Sudoku that's going on. So that is a 7. That's a 7. There's a 5 here, so this is an 8. This is a 5. This 7 is seeing those 2 squares, so that must be a 7. That must be a 5. That must be a 2. So this is not 7 or 8 anymore. That must be a 1, 3 or a 4 because we know the 13 is now going to be 5 plus a 1, 3, 4 triple. That can't be 4. That can't be 4 because there's a 4 in those squares. So this is a 1 or a 3. Oh, and this is a 7. Oh, no, look, I haven't. This has got to connect. This 28's got to connect. And it's not connected yet. It's got to connect to this tetromino. So it must, it must be that. So this is just an incredible puzzle, isn't it? Look at this. So now we've got 28 here without using 7. So that's forced. That's 5, 6, 8, 9. That's not 8, 9. These squares have got to be 1, 2, 3 and 4. That's not 1, 2. That's not 4. A little bit of a trick there between these cells. Look, whatever I put in this square, we've got a 1, 2, 3, 6 triple here. So whatever I put in there has to appear in there as well. That gives us a 1, 2 pair in that row. This region here, the grey region, has to connect to its friends, so that square must be grey. This is a 15 clue in this one. There's a little trick we can do there to rule out this square from being a tetromino piece. Because if this is a tetromino piece, this must be a tetromino piece. But the minimum value for those two squares, because 1 and 2 have gone in the row, would be 3 and 4. 3, 4 plus 8 equals 15, and we can't put 0 into the fourth piece. So that square is green. Six. 9. Where does 9 go in column 1? Look, we haven't placed a 9 in these squares. There's a 9 there. So 9 must go here. This square's got to be 3, 4 or 6. Where does 9 go in this region now? 9 is not... Yeah, 9 is forced into that square. It's an interesting point here, look. This 12... Oh no. Oh no, that's okay. This 12, if this square is a tetromino piece, the only tetromino piece I could draw in this region would be that, and that's connecting to another L. So this must be green. I don't know whether to focus on the Sudoku or to focus on the lits. There's something. This square can't be tetromino. Why not? Well, because if it is, the tetromino piece in the 15 cage would be those 4 cells. And look, we can't put 1 or 2 in any of those cells. So the minimum we could make those cells add up to would be 3, 4, 5 and 6, which add up to 18. So that square is green. In fact, look, we have got this triple here, so this square can't be a 3 or a 6. Yeah, okay, where does 8 go? Where does 8 go in that row? It can't go in those squares, it can't go in these squares, so it must go there. That might be useful. That's not 8, therefore. These squares are 4, 5, 7 and 9. That's not 9. Now... okay, so the 12, this 12 region has not connected to the rest of the grid yet, so that square's grey. And... what more? Oh, I'll tell you something we could do. This is a 13 clue. So I was just thinking about where 9 can go in this region, because we've got these 9s and this 9 here. So 9 can't go in any of those cells, but 9 also can't go in the grey, because that will break the 13 clue. So 9 is in one of 2 positions. So which means that's a 4. So that's not 4. And can we do better than that? Oh yes, we can. Look, keep looking at this region. Where does 5 go in this region? It goes in one position. That's a 5. No, that's all you get. I think we don't get much from that, but we get the digit. Okay. So can we do the same with 8? We can't put 8 in the 13 cage either, look. So 8 can't go here. 8 can't go here. 8's got to be in one of two positions in this box. Right, okay, so we can do another trick. If 8 is in one of those two cells, this square can no longer be grey. Because if that's grey, obviously this square must also be grey, and they'll definitely end up with an 8 in the tetromino, which is impossible. So that's green. So this tetromino now in this region, I think it can still be a lot of different things. I was about to say it has to be a particular type of tetromino, but I actually don't think it does. Now, it's definitely my progress has slowed down to a walking pace. Sorry. I'm always acutely aware of the times when my brain is like saying, I've got nothing for you, I've got nothing. 7 can't go there. Grasping at very short straws here. Oh, that's 7, 9 pairs, so that can't be a 7. Now, right, okay, let's think about lits again then. So this region here has got to get out. Now it's only got one region it can get out through, and that's the 23 region. Yeah, I've got something. There we go. Right, so is it possible that this square is part of a lit? The answer is no, because in order for this to be part of a lit and to get this region out, it would have to be an I tetromino, which would reach this square. But now, in order for the 16 to connect to the rest of the grid, let me show you, this square would have to be grey. Now, to connect the 16 to the rest of the grid, this square would have to be grey, and you'd have to find a way of connecting those two squares to each other. Well, that takes 5 cells, which is not allowed. So, in fact, that's a long-winded way of saying that's green. But I do wonder whether we can repeat that trick with this square, which might be useful. So if this square was in, we've got to get... We can't just get to this square. We've already looked at that. It doesn't get us far enough. So we have to get... Right, so if this square is in, you have to get to that square somehow. So both of those cells are in, and the connection via the 16 has to be from this square, which means that has to be an L. Now, does that work? Maybe that does work. So this then couldn't be an L. That would have to be an F. No, it doesn't work. Oh, that's very clever. Right, let's look at this. So we know... Let's go slowly. If this is grey, we know we've got to connect this part of the grid to the rest of the grid. Now, we can never get to this square if this is grey because it's too far away. So we know the connection is coming through the 16 region. Now, what are the options, therefore, to get us to the 16 region? Well, we could draw a T tetromino, for example. That doesn't work because that requires the same problem we had before, both of those squares to be grey, which is too far away. So we've got to use this square. Okay? Now, the only way this 16 can connect to the rest of the grid now is with an L tetromino like that. And that means this can't be an L tetromino. Well, the only thing it can be is an S tetromino, and now this is stranded again because this cell is unavailable. That would create a 2 by 2 region. So in fact, I think we can say that that square is green. And now, how do you connect this to the rest of the grid? You've got to go through this gate that we've created. So we've created a gate, let's use it. This square's got to be 1, 3 or 4 because of the 13 clue. In fact, this region, we've got to place a 6 in one of those two squares, look. The 4 must be in one of those two squares. So that's not a 4. 4 in this 13 region is not here, it's not here. So it's in one of those 3 cells. And yes, you've guessed it, I'm stuck again. Right, if this square is grey, that square is not grey. Now the 9 is not part of the 23 cage. So we must have to use an... Yes, we must have to have an 8 in the 23 cage because 7 plus 6 plus 5 plus 4 is only equal to 22. So there is an 8. There's an 8 here and an 8 here. So one of these 3 cells has to be an 8, which is not looking very helpful, which means one of those 3 squares, whichever one is the 8, is part of a tetromino. Now, I'm not really sure what the efficient way is of progressing here. I feel like we're faced with a broad choice. We either focus on the irregular Sudoku, which I have to say isn't filling me with joy, that prospect. Or what we could do is to try and work out the pattern of the lits. Where does 7 go in this region? Ah, yeah, look at that. 7's got to be in one of those 2 squares. So 7 is not here. Which means 7 is here by Sudoku. Ah, so where does 7 now go in this region? Come on, come on. Yeah, it's good, it's good. 7 has to go in one of those 2 cells. That's nice because it fixes that one and that one. It means that one's 9. So there may be a regular Sudoku. We can do a bit more of that. If this is a 9, 9 in this region, it's still not restricted enough. So, right, now I really am struggling. And I'm really not sure. I don't even know what this is. This is an S or an L. This could be a T, an S, an S. The only thing this can't be is an L now, because this one has to be in. But it can be T, S, S. Yeah, it can still be 3 different variations. And now it's not necessary for this to connect over the top, because this region could connect to the rest of the grid via this region. Which is frustrating. Just trying to see if there's a quick way of realizing how this works. It would be really nice if I could just eliminate 1 or 2 more. Is that possible, for example? That would force this to be an L. Let's look at. I'm going to look at that. That's because at least I can see that forces something immediately. If this square, if this square is in and is grey, that forces this. It forces this immediately. Now we've got to be very careful, because this region here, this 13 region, can't be an L and it can't be an S, so it must be a T. Now the only T that I can see that's drawable there, that takes this square in, is that one. And that gives me an enormous problem. Yeah, that breaks the puzzle, because now I can't get the 16 region connected to anything. It can't take this cell, that would create a 2 by 2. So it's got to connect downwards through here, which turns this top cell in the 15 cage yellow. Well, what tetromino are we going to draw in the 15 cage now? We can't put an L in, because this is an L, and we can't put a T in to connect here, which we know it needs to connect there. It needs to take that cell. So that's another T, and the T touches the T. So this square is not in. Now there may be other more efficient ways of doing that, but that is one way, and it's certainly a logical way. Now, so this is not, this region here doesn't contain an L. It either contains an S or a T. This region here, either contains an S or a T. So I'm wondering if we can there's broadly two possibilities, aren't they? These are connected or they are not connected. So yeah, this square looks interesting. Let's make that square not connected. You can see that forces two greys there. Now this can't now be an L tetromino, so it would force the S tetromino here. This square now can't be in. And this needs to connect to the rest of the grid, so it's got to take those. It doesn't, it immediately fails. Oh, that's good. So look at that. If we do this, we get an S here. This hasn't connected to the rest of the grid. This can't be in. So how do we connect this to the rest of the grid? The only way is to come up to this square, and that forces this to be an L and connect to another L, which is wrong. So in fact, we can say with certainty that square is in. Not actually. Therefore it's not 9 because of the 13 cage. Yes. So this square is 9. That's not 9. That's not 9. There's a 3-6 pair. 4-9 pair here. That's not 9. 9 in this 15 cage has to be up the left hand side. Look, it's got, in fact it's got to be in one of those two cells. So it's not here. So this is a 9. This square is a 9, so it must be green. This interesting. This square has to be green, or we're going to create a 2 by 2 shaded region. So that square is grey. I don't think I might have said this square has to be green. It has to be grey, otherwise you create a 2 by 2 grey region, which is obviously not correct. If this is grey, it can't be 8, so the 8 moves over. Oh, come on. No! That must be... It must matter, surely. Oh, yeah, here's some logic. It's the same logic I just did down here, but I've only just spotted it up here. If this square is green, that creates a 2 by 2 grey region. So that square is grey. So these do connect through here. Now, that means they can't be the same. So if this is an S, this has to be a T. If this is an S, this has to be a T. So if it's this way round, we get that. Is that okay or not? That's the question. That is the question we're asking. Is that okay? I don't know is the answer. I'm not sure. No, I don't think that is okay. I don't think that is okay because I've still got this enormous It's the same problem as before, I think, with how do I get the 16 cage connected to the rest of the world? And the critical thing oh, this is weird. Yeah, this is weird. Is it if this is the situation, is it possible this square is green? Is that possible? And the answer is fairly clearly no, it's not possible, because I need this grey region to connect to the rest of the grid. And the only way it can do that now is via this arrangement here, which creates two L's. So this square actually has to be grey. And once this square is grey, we have a massive problem in this 15 cage. Because what lit is possible to draw now, given those two are in? Well, it's only a tetromino. You can't draw any other tetromino in here that works. So the problem with this, of course, being a tetromino, whether it's that tetromino or that tetromino, is that this is a tetromino already. Wow. Okay, I mean, again, I'm sure there are other ways of doing this, but this is the way I am doing it. And it's my party. So we've got to this point, and we've just proved this is not a T. So this is an S. So this is a T. Ah, now this is interesting. This is interesting because look, this side of the grid now is not connecting via the 15 cage, so it must connect via the 16 cage, which means that's forced, this is forced, this can't be an L tetromino, so that's a T tetromino, and we are cooking with gas. There we go. That's got to be green. We still don't know what that one does. But this must be a massive breakthrough, isn't it? So now we've just got a very difficult irregular Sudoku to do. We know 8 is in the 23 cage though, so let's get rid of 8 from that square. That gives me an 8 here. Look, the 23 contains an 8 and a 7. That's 15. So the other two cells add to 8 without using 1, 7 or 2, 6. So this is 3, 5, 7, 8 in some order. That's a 3 by Sudoku. Look, 5, 7, 8 in the column. So this is 5, 7, 8, which places a 7 here. So now the 13 cages. In fact, loads of things happen now. Look, 2, 5, 1. Oh, yeah. Come on. 1, 2. This can't be 2 anymore. This can't be 3 anymore. And what I was thinking is that the 13 cage now contains a 4. And it doesn't contain a 5. So this must be 1, 2, 4, 6. That's the only combination that will work. So let's label it up and see what we can see. You can see those two can't be 1 and 2. So this becomes a 4, 6 pair. That can't be a 4. So that's 6, 4 gets done. This 6 fixes the 6 and the 3. This square's got to be a 1 or a 2 by Sudoku. This square's got to be a 3 by Sudoku to complete this region. That 3 locks a 3 out of that square, gives me a 2, 6 pair. 3 goes there. 2, 6 pair gives me, don't know, nothing. Bobbins. That can't be a 3. Maybe this region up here. We've got a lot of digits. We need 1, 4 and 6 to complete this region. That can't be 4. No, I don't know. Still it resists. Oh, look at this row. We need 1, 2 and 3 into those squares. Now these squares are all in the 15 cage, so that must be a 9 to get us up to 15. 4, 5, 7 gives me a 9 over here, 4 here. This square should be fillable, innable. That's got to be a 6. No. It's still being difficult. This can't be 3. That can't be 3, look. I feel like I must be able to work out this. What's this column? 3 isn't. Oh, where's 3? 3 must be there. Okay, well that's something. So these squares are 1, 4 and 6. This can't be 4. That gives me a 1, 6 pair here, which forces this to be a 2. 2, 1, 4. 4, 6, 1. And finally, because this is a 13, yes, I need the 4, the 1 and the 3 to complete the Litz part of the puzzle. How long has that resisted? My goodness. So this is a 5 now. This is a... The 7 tells me that's an 8. This should be a 1 or a 4, I think, but it's by Sudoku. This 1 gives me the 6 here. Now this is a 1 by Sudoku, so that's a 4, that's a 1, that's a 2, that's a 1, that's a 3, that's a 1, that's a 2, 2 and 6. And maybe, yeah, look, maybe it's going a bit better all of a sudden. That's got to be a 4 up there, so that's 4 and 6 gets sorted out. That can't be 4 anymore. This can't be 4, so the 4 goes there. So we're left with... Oh, we're left with the 16 cage. Look, that's going to be the key. Those 3 squares have got to add up to 15. And the options we've got are 2, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, so 2, 6 and 7. These must be. There's no 5 in them. So the 5 must go there. The 7 must go here. These squares have got to be 3, 5 and 8. So the 3 goes there. This is a 5-8 pair. The 5-8 pair, look, marries up in column 3, which gives me a 7 and a 5 there, which fixes my 5-8 pair here, gives me an 8 here. This is a 2 by Sudoku. This is a 6 by Sudoku. That's a 7, 5, and if I've not made a mistake, I can put a 6 there and click check. Yeah, that's how to do it. What a puzzle. What a puzzle that is. Shye, I absolutely love that. That is quite... I mean, it could become a new variant that of Sudoku because it's so intricate. The logic is beautiful. And I suspect this is going to be a great example of it because it's not easy, that. That really was not straightforward. And the way you had to flip back and forwards between the Sudoku and the Litz logic, it wasn't just do a Litz puzzle, then do a Sudoku puzzle at all. It was very, very interconnected, which is indicative of extreme setting skill. So I hope you enjoyed me struggling through it. It's another long video, and we'll be back later with another edition of Cracking the Cryptic.